Hey, awesome listeners, and welcome back to Becoming Ultimate Masters, the show that dives deep into all sorts of fascinating topics to help you unlock your full potential.
That's right.
And today, we're taking a deep dive into something truly fascinating. Zoroastrianism.
Can be a good one.
You might be thinking Zoro what? But trust me, this ancient religion
Yeah.
is way more than just a cool name. It's packed with wisdom and insights that are surprisingly relevant to your lives today. We're talking about one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions,
Oh, wow.
with a history spanning thousands of years.
Thousands.
And believe it or not, it's influenced everything from other major religions to the way we think about good and evil today.
So let's rewind back to the very beginning.
Okay.
Where did Zoroastrianism come from?
Well, picture this ancient Iran, a land of vast deserts, towering mountains, and a people deeply connected to the rhythms of nature.
I like it already. It's from this rich cultural tapestry that Zoroastrianism emerged. You see, back then, the ancient Iranians, like many other cultures, believed in a whole pantheon of gods. But then a revolutionary figure named Zarathustra came along and changed everything.
Zarathustra. That name rings a bell, but help me out here. Who was he exactly?
Think of him as a spiritual trailblazer, a prophet who dared to challenge the status quo. Zarathustra had this radical idea. There's only one God, a supreme being called Ahura Mazda. And get this, Ahura Mazda represents truth, order, and goodness. So for the first time, you have this concept of a single, all-powerful force for good in the universe.
Wow. So instead of worshiping a bunch of different gods, Zarathustra is saying there's one ultimate source of good.
That's it.
That's a pretty big deal. I can see how that would have shaken things up back then.
Absolutely. It was a major shift from the polytheistic beliefs that were common at the time. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This idea of one God, this emphasis on goodness and truth, it actually paved the way for other monotheistic religions like Christianity and Islam.
So Zoroastrianism is like the OG of monotheism.
You could say that.
Mind blown. But let's dive deeper into the beliefs themselves.
Okay.
What are some of the core concepts that make Zoroastrianism so unique?
At the heart of it all is this epic cosmic battle between good and evil. It's like a universal tug of war. And guess what?
Right.
We're not just spectators. Zoroastrians believe that humans have the power to choose sides.
Wait, so it's not just some abstract battle happening out there in space.
Yeah.
We're actually part of it.
Exactly. And this battle is represented by two key concepts. Asha, which is like cosmic order and truth, and its opposite Druj, which represents chaos and lies. Think of it this way. Asha is like building something awesome, creating order and harmony. Druj is like tearing things down. Spreading chaos and negativity.
So it's like a constant choice between being constructive and destructive.
Yes.
Not just in the world, but in our own lives too.
Yeah, you got it. Zoroastrianism teaches that every thought, word, and action we take contributes to this cosmic battle. And here's the thing. We have the free will to choose which side we support.
Okay, so we've got this cosmic battle, this choice between good and evil. But who are the players on Team Ahura Mazda?
Well, Ahura Mazda has these awesome sidekicks, these divine emanations called the Amesha-spentas.
The Amesha-spenta.
There are 6 of them, and each one represents a specific virtue or quality that helps uphold cosmic order.
Okay, break it down for me. Who are these Amesha-spentas?
Okay.
What do they stand for?
First up, you have Vohumana, which represents good thought or a pure mind. It's all about having good intentions and making wise choices. Then there's Asha, which stands for truth and order. Think of it as the ultimate truth seeker upholding justice and fairness. Then there's a Kshatriyavaya, which embodies desirable dominion. This one's about using your power and influence for good, leading with compassion and integrity.
Wow. These Amesha-spentas sound like a pretty inspiring crew.
They are.
But there are 3 more, right?
Right. You've got Spenta Armighty, which is devotion or humility. It's about being humble, kind, and dedicated to doing what's right, even when no one's watching. Then we have Harvatat, which represents wholeness and abundance. This one's all about nurturing your well-being, taking care of your physical and mental health, and living a balanced life.
Okay. So far, so good.
Yeah.
What are the last one?
Last but not least, there's Amaritat, which represents immortality. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean living forever in a physical sense.
Yeah.
It's more about the idea that goodness and righteousness have a lasting impact.
Okay.
That the choices we make for good can ripple out and influence the world long after we're gone.
Whoa. That's deep. So it's
Yeah,
like each of these figures represents a quality we could strive for in our own lives, right?
exactly.
Kind of like our own personal team of superheroes,
Yeah.
helping us fight for good in the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Zoroastrianism isn't just about abstract concepts. It's about putting these virtues into practice in our everyday lives. Which Amesha Spenta resonates most with you? Which quality do you think you could cultivate more in your own life?
That's a great question. I think for me, it would be a mix of vohumarna, that good thinking and intention,
Mm-hmm.
and spenta armati, that devotion to doing what's right, even when it's tough. What about you?
That's a great combination. I think I'd lean towards Arshavahishta, that pursuit of truth and justice, and maybe a dash of Harvatat, just to make sure I'm taking care of myself along the way.
I love that. Okay, so we've got these powerful forces for good,
Yeah.
these virtues to strive for. But what about the flip side?
Yeah.
What happens when we die in Zoroastrianism?
Okay.
Is there an afterlife?
That's a big question. And Zoroastrianism has some pretty vivid imagery about what happens after we shuffle off this mortal coil. Imagine this. You die, and your soul comes to a bridge called the Chinvat Bridge.
Wait, a bridge. That's a new one.
I know, right? But it's a super powerful symbol. This bridge is like the ultimate test. For those who lived a righteous life, who fought for good and chose Amosha, the bridge is wide and sturdy, easy to cross. They're greeted by a beautiful maiden who leads them to the House of Song, basically, paradise.
Okay, that sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
But what about the people who chose the path of Druj?
Well, for them, the bridge is a totally different story. It becomes narrow and treacherous, and they end up falling into the abyss below,
Oh, no.
which leads to the House of Lies, a place of darkness and suffering.
Whoa. That sounds intense. So you're saying our actions in this life have eternal consequences?
That's a core belief in Zoroastrianism. It's not about being perfect, but it's about striving to live a life aligned with truth and goodness. It's about making choices that contribute to inertia rather than drudge, knowing that those choices have real weight. What stands out to you about this idea of the Chinvat Bridge?
I think what strikes me is that it's not just about getting into heaven or avoiding hell. It's about the journey itself, the choices we make every step of the way. It's like a video game where your actions determine the difficulty level.
I love that analogy. And speaking of journeys, Zoroastrianism itself has had a pretty epic journey through history. From its ancient roots in Iran to its influence on other cultures and religions, it's a story full of twists and turns.
Okay, I am so ready to hear more about that.
Right.
All right, we're back and ready to jump into the historical side of Zoroastrianism. I'm picturing ancient Persia kings and queens, maybe some epic battles.
You're not far off. Zoroastrianism did have a pretty dramatic journey through history. It went from being a relatively small faith to becoming the official religion of one of the most powerful empires the world had ever seen,
Wow.
the Achaemenid Empire.
Hold on, we're talking about the same empire that had rulers like Cyrus the Great and Darius the Great, right?
Yep,
The ones who conquered vast territories and built incredible cities.
that's right. And for a significant chunk of their reign, Zoroastrianism was the name of the game. It wasn't just a personal belief system for the rulers, it was woven into the fabric of the empire itself.
That's wild. I mean, imagine a religion that started with one guy's radical ideas.
Yeah.
Then hundreds of years later, it's shaping an entire empire.
It's pretty amazing.
What kind of impact did that have?
Well, think about it. When a religion becomes that intertwined with political power,
Yeah.
its symbols and ideas start popping up everywhere.
Oh, I see.
For example, if you visit the ruins of Persepolis, the grand ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire, you'll find all sorts of carvings and inscriptions that reflect Zoroastrian beliefs.
So it's like looking at a snapshot of Zoroastrianism in action, frozen in time.
Exactly.
What kinds of things would we see?
You'd see depictions of fire altars,
Okay.
which played a central role in Zoroastrian rituals. Remember how we talked about fire being a symbol of purity and truth? Well, for Zoroastrians, fire represents the divine light of Ahura Mazda. It's a way to connect with the divine.
Oh.
To purify thoughts and intentions.
So it's not about worshiping fire itself,
No.
but using it as a focal point for prayer and connection with the divine.
Right.
That's a really beautiful concept.
It is. And it's not just about the rituals.
Yeah.
Even King Darius the Great himself left behind inscriptions boasting about his devotion to Ahura Mazda.
Wow. So they really believed it.
Oh, yeah. He believed his rule was divinely ordained, that he was chosen to uphold cosmic order and justice in the world.
Wow. So even these powerful emperors saw themselves as playing a role in that cosmic battle between good and evil. It wasn't just a religious idea.
Yeah.
It was woven into their politics and worldview.
Exactly. But of course, no empire lasts forever.
Right.
And the Achaemenid Empire eventually fell, giving way to new rulers and new dynasties. Zoroastrianism continued to evolve.
Okay.
But then a major turning point came along. Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great, the conqueror who swept through Persia and left his mark on history. What happened to Zoroastrianism under his rule?
Well, with the arrival of Alexander and the spread of Greek culture, Zoroastrianism faced a bit of a decline.
Oh.
It wasn't wiped out completely, but its influence definitely diminished
I see.
as Greek ideas became more dominant.
So it's like a cultural earthquake shaking things up and changing the religious landscape.
You could say that.
But even though it faced these challenges, Zoroastrianism survived, right?
It did. It continued to be practiced by communities in Persia and other parts of the world.
Oh, wow.
Adapting to new circumstances and finding ways to preserve its traditions.
So it's still around today. That's interesting.
And this is where it gets fascinating.
Okay.
Because even though Zoroastrianism may not be as widespread as some other religions today, its influence can still be felt in surprising ways.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How has this ancient religion continued to impact us today?
Well, for starters, think about those core concepts we discussed earlier. The battle between good and evil, the importance of ethical choices, the idea that our actions have consequences. These ideas have resonated throughout history and influenced countless philosophers, thinkers, and even other religions.
So it's like Zoroastrianism planted these seeds of wisdom that have continued to grow and blossom in different forms over time.
Exactly. And even though you might not meet a lot of Zoroastrians today,
Yeah.
their beliefs offer some really valuable lessons for how we live our lives,
Right.
how we face challenges, and how we contribute to making the world a better place.
That's so true. It's like these ancient ideas are speaking to us across time, reminding us of those universal truths that are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago.
Absolutely.
But I know there are a lot of misconceptions about Zoroastrianism floating around.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Time to bust some myths.
You bet. What have you heard that you're curious about?
Well, one thing I've always wondered is it true that Zoroastrians worship fire?
Okay.
I've seen those images of fire temples and ceremonies.
Right. And it's definitely a striking element of their faith.
It's definitely one of the most visually captivating aspects of Zoroastrianism,
Yeah.
but it's often misunderstood. Remember how we talked about fire representing the divine light of Ahura Mazda?
Yeah.
Well, for Zoroastrians, fire is a powerful symbol of purity, truth, and the divine presence. They use it in their rituals and ceremonies as a focal point for prayer and connection with the divine.
So it's not about worshiping fire itself,
Right.
but using it as a tool for spiritual focus.
Exactly.
Kind of like a visual representation of that inner struggle between good and evil we were talking about.
Exactly. It's like a reminder to keep your thoughts and intentions pure, to strive for truth and goodness in all that you do. Think of it this way.
Okay.
When you light a candle during a moment of reflection or prayer, are you worshiping the candle itself?
Right.
Or are you using its light to symbolize something deeper, something more meaningful?
That's a great way to put it. It's about the intention behind the ritual, not the fire itself.
Okay, so we've cleared that up.
Yeah.
What are some other misconceptions you've come across?
Well, another common one is that Zoroastrianism is a fatalistic religion, that everything is predetermined,
Oh,
and we have no control over our own destiny.
really?
But that's not accurate at all. Remember, one of the core principles of Zoroastrianism is the idea of free will.
Right. We have the power to choose between Asha and Druj,
Yeah.
between contributing to good or evil in the world.
Exactly. And that choice is crucial.
Yeah.
Zoroastrianism emphasizes personal responsibility.
Okay.
It's not about sitting back and letting fate decide your course. It's about actively engaging in the battle between good and evil,
I see.
making conscious choices that align with truth, justice, and compassion.
So it's not about being a passive bystander in the cosmic drama,
No.
but rather becoming an active participant,
Yes.
a hero in your own right. I love that.
Me too. And I think that's one of the most empowering messages of Zoroastrianism even today. It reminds us that we have agency, that we can make a difference, that our choices matter not just for ourselves, but for the world around us.
You know what? You're absolutely right. That message is so relevant for young people today. We're facing so many challenges in the world,
Yeah,
from climate change to social injustice,
it's true.
and it's easy to feel overwhelmed or helpless. But Zoroastrianism reminds us that we have the power to choose good,
Yes.
to fight for what's right, to make a positive impact.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's about tapping into that inner strength, that divine spark within each of us, and using it to make the world a brighter place.
That's powerful stuff. And I think we've covered so much ground in this deep dive into Zoroastrianism.
We have.
We've explored its origins, its core beliefs, its journey through history, and even busted some myths along the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, I want to hear what resonated with you,
Yes.
our incredible listeners. What surprised you? What made you think differently? What insights did you gain from this deep dive?
Don't be shy. Share your thoughts. What stood out to you about Zoroastrianism? What do you think?
It's amazing to think we've covered so much in this deep dive into Zoroastrianism.
Oh, right.
From those epic cosmic battles
Yeah.
to the Chinvat Bridge test.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride, but honestly, the coolest thing for me has been discovering how relevant
Yeah.
Zoroastrianism still is.
Totally.
Great.
It's like this ancient wisdom is speaking directly to us, offering guidance for navigating the ups and downs of life.
Mm-hmm. You know, the world can feel pretty chaotic sometimes.
Yeah, it can.
But Zoroastrianism
Yeah,
reminds us that we're not powerless.
for sure.
We have a choice to align with Aphasia,
Yep.
to be a force for good,
Yeah.
to make a difference.
That's it.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world.
Right.
Zoroastrianism takes it a step further and says, hey, be the good you want to see in the universe.
Exactly. And you don't have to be a superhero to do it.
Right.
It starts with those everyday choices. Those small acts of kindness, courage, and integrity that add up to something bigger than ourselves.
So it's like we're all part of this epic team.
Yeah.
Fighting for one good thought,
Mm-hmm.
one good word, one good deed at a time.
Yeah.
Which honestly is a pretty empowering thought.
It is. And what's even more inspiring is that Zoroastrianism believes in the power of those good actions to ripple out
Oh, yeah.
and create a better future. It's like planting seeds of goodness
I see.
that will grow and blossom long after we're gone.
I love that. It's like a legacy of light
Mm-hmm.
that we can leave behind.
Yeah.
And that brings me to something I found really fascinating.
Okay.
The idea of a meritat,
Yeah.
that Amisha Spenta representing immortality. It's not about living forever in a physical sense.
Right. It's more about the idea that goodness and righteousness have a lasting impact, a kind of spiritual immortality.
Okay.
Think of it like this. When you inspire someone with your kindness, when you stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, that positive energy, that ripple effect, it continues to spread outward even if you're not there to see it.
Wow, that's deep. It's like our actions can create a ripple effect of good that extends far beyond our own lifetimes.
It does.
That's a pretty amazing thought, especially for young people who are just starting to figure out their place in the world.
It is. It's about recognizing that you have the power to make a positive difference, to leave the world a little brighter than you found it. And that's something worth striving for no matter what challenges you face.
To all our amazing listeners out there, remember you have the power to choose good,
Yeah.
to be a force for positive change, to leave your own legacy of light. It might sound cheesy,
It's true, though.
but it's true.
And if you ever feel lost or discouraged, remember those Amesha Spentas, those qualities of goodness that you can cultivate within yourself. Tap into that inner strength, that divine spark that connects you to something bigger than yourself.
Well said. That wraps up our deep dive into Zoroastrianism.
It does.
We hope you've learned something new, gained some fresh perspectives, and maybe even felt a little bit inspired.
We had a blast exploring this ancient faith with you, and we encourage you to keep digging deeper, keep asking questions, and keep discovering those hidden gems of wisdom that can enrich your life.
And hey, don't keep this awesome knowledge to yourself.
Right.
Share this episode with your friends, family, classmates, anyone who might be interested in learning about this fascinating religion and its surprisingly relevant message for the modern world.
And remember, a new episode of Becoming Ultimate Masters drops daily, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next deep dive.
If you're ready to take your personal growth journey to the next level, check out our coaching program at www.ultimatemasters.org/coaching, or send us a message on WhatsApp at +256 77324 119.
That's right.
We're here to support you on your path to becoming the ultimate master of your own life.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining your light.